Thank you for the praise and the choir chorism. Today we're going to continue to think about Gideon, and the title is After the Victory. Elder has read Judges chapter 7 verses 22 through 25, but we're going to cover basically all the way to the end of chapter 8. But before we begin, let me ask you a question. Have you ever experienced God at work in your life? Like Gideon's experience. Have you ever had your prayer answered and it's just so amazing and you say God is good, God is alive? Yeah? This coming Lord's Day is Thanksgiving Lord's Day, and I was thinking about these days I've been, as Gideon Judges is really helping me to look back to my life of faith, and I think maybe for the first time in my long life, or in my life of faith, I'm taking it, I have before, but most seriously asking myself, are you really a believer? How well do you believe? Because I was reflecting about my life of Thanksgiving. Do I have more Thanksgiving in my lips, or do I have more grumblings and complaints? And I realized it doesn't matter how good or bad the condition of your life is. Those who complain will continue to complain. Those who give thanks will continue to give thanks. And as I was preparing for this message and also preparing for the Sundays, I think it's the Holy Spirit that led me back to year 2006 to think about this time, exactly 2 years ago, when we were preparing for the 2016 conference. Do you remember back then? And that's like only 1 year after I got here. Is it a year? Only one year, 1.5 years after I got here. And we booked Raffles Conference Center, and we started to worry, how are we going to fill that place? Do you remember how troubled we were, how nervous we were? And now, 2 years, and do you remember the things that we were wishing for? I don't know if you had any wishes. We were praying like, we wish we could work with Tongning. We wish we knew all these, big churches. And right now, only in 2 years, all these things that I was praying for, now I look back, realize, just even now, during praise, I realized, wow, all these things God has answered already. Remember at the beginning of the year, we were praying for Deacon's meeting. I'm sorry for picking on you, but some of the church members who are not so familiar do not even know that she has any sickness. Not that you're sick, right? Isn't it amazing how God is at work? And then that led me to ask, so what am I doing in response to what God has done to us? We pray for something, pray for this thing called A, and we got A. What's next? What? We spend like 2-3 weeks doing dawn prayer, praying for something, asking for something. But once we get it, I forgot. Right? By right, isn't it supposed to be 2 weeks or a month of dawn prayers to ask for something, and when we get something, another month of dawn prayer to give thanks? But do we do that? No, we're busy thinking about B to ask for. A is given, and the joy lasts for like a moment, and then we think about what I don't have now, and then we ask for B. And so today, up to last week, we studied about the victory that God gave to Gideon. And let us think about the responses and reactions of the people after the victory. And let us learn from them. We're going to think about 4 kinds of people and 4 kinds of reactions and responses after the victory. What kind of life, what kind of attitude? So after they gained that victory, that big victory against the 135,000, 300 versus 135,000, some people started to flee, right? And so the 300 soldiers were following and chasing after that, and then they were going towards Jordan to cross over to their land. And so that's what we read, verse 24. Verse 23, the men of Israel were summoned from Naphtali and Asher and Manasseh, and they pursued Midian. Verse 24, Gideon sent messengers throughout all the hill country of Ephraim, saying, come down against Midian and take the waters before them, as far as Bethbara and the Jordan. So all the men of Ephraim were summoned, and they took the waters as far as Bethbara and the Jordan. So this battle was a legendary battle, supposedly. So what Gideon did, he gained that initial victory. And the soldiers that were running away, the Midian soldiers that were running away, Gideon's soldiers, although they were so tired and weary, they were chasing after them. But then those guys were running ahead of them, and so Gideon sends a fast messenger, probably on a horse, to the hill country of Ephraim and said, you guys are up there already, so block them. Block them and destroy them before they get away from us. And so Ephraim does that, and that Ephraimites' battle against the Midianites was so amazing that in Isaiah it talks about it. Isaiah chapter 10 verse 26. Isaiah chapter 10 verse 26. The Lord of hosts will arouse a scourge against him, like the slaughter of Midian at the rock of Horeb. And his staff will be over the sea, and he will lift up the way he did in Egypt. So even later, this battle is spoken about like a model of all the battles that should be fought with God's help. But then the problem is, after that battle, let's skip to Judges chapter 8 verse 1. Judges chapter 8 verse 1. So the Ephraimites, the tribe of Ephraim, destroyed them and captured the 2 leaders, Oreb and Zeeb. Here it's Z-E-E-B, so we pronounce it Zeeb, but it's Zeeb. Oreb and Zeeb, he killed them and he brought their heads to Gideon. And then this is what they say, chapter 8, verse 1. Okay? Then the men of Ephraim said to him, what is this thing you've done to us? Not calling us when you went to fight against Midian. And they contended with him vigorously. Now, contended with him vigorously is not a positive thing. Right? They were really, really complaining and almost fighting against Gideon. What were they complaining about? He said, why did you call us when you had the glorious victory? Right? When you were fighting against the 135,000. Now, the Ephraimites, during that time, were known as the great warriors. The tribe of Judah, tribe of Ephraim were the 2 great fighters, and they were the 2 firstborn greatest tribes that were protecting Israel. Because they were the hero tribes during the Canaanite conquest. And so they were saying, hey, we could have fought better. Why didn't you call us? And here Gideon says, verses 2 and 3, but he said to them, what have I done now in comparison with you? Is not, okay, now you have to understand the relationship. Which tribe is Gideon from? Short-term memory? Manasseh? Manasseh? No? Cannot remember. Anyway. So Gideon says, what have I done now in comparison with you? Is not the gleaning of the grapes of Ephraim better than the vintage of Abiezer? God has given the leaders of Midian, Oreb and Zeb, into your hands. And what was I able to do in comparison with you? Do you see the humility of Gideon as he is praising them? They're upset. They're upset. But Gideon is basically saying, your gleaning, you catching them is greater and more honorable than what I did. 300 men fighting 135,000. What you did is much greater than what I did. Now, let us think about this. In comparison to our day-to-day. Where was Ephraim? Oh, we have an answer. What? Manasseh. Didn't I tell you? And you said no. Okay. Can you think about the possible relationship between Ephraim and Manasseh? What relationship? Brothers, what happened? The order was changed. Can you imagine the possible rivalry? Right? Can you kind of see where Ephraim's emotion comes from? Right? I don't know. But Gideon is being very sensitive and very careful here. Okay? He's saying, yeah, what you did is great. But then, let's think about this. Where was Ephraim? Where was the tribe of Ephraim? They are the great fighters and warriors. When Gideon was calling for people to come and fight and help, where were they? Do you think they did not know about this? This is a national affair. Right. This is the great Midianites trying to destroy all of Israel. Everybody was at a risk. And Gideon was calling for people to come and fight. When 32,000 people came, where were the Ephraimites? See? When Pastor was making an announcement, where were you? Later come say, oh, you never told me. You never included me. Basically, there are Ephraimites who come later, and there might be some other reason why they did not participate. Maybe they said, no way, Gideon's gonna lose, and we better not get involved anyway. Or just kind of stepping back and say, hey, let's kind of see how it goes. If it goes well, we'll join in. I don't know if they felt bad or they were really angry. They're saying, why didn't you include me? Gideon could have said, hey, where were you? Where were you when I needed you? And you were sitting there, and only when I really, really asked you, send me a messenger, then you rise up and do something. Gideon could have said this. Ephraim was the big brother tribe. If they had been doing their job, there would not be a need for Gideon. There would not be a need for God to call Gideon to fight. But because they were not doing their job, God called Gideon. And when God was using Gideon, they did not get involved. And later they're saying, hey, Where's my portion? Where's my glory? Where's my honor? We have to really think about these things. God gave Ephraim special task, special talent, special strength. But what were they using that for? They were using it for their own glory, their own honor. Where they can make their name, they were there. But where they thought, 300 versus 135,000, we gotta not go dirty our name. Where I can be acknowledged, Ephraim was there. Where I cannot be glorified, they weren't there. And they do a little thing, and they're rubbing it off. And they do the same thing to later. This is not the only time they do the similar thing to Jephthah later. Gideon was nice to them. Gideon said, "Oh, it's okay. What you did is great, greater than what I did." So he kind of, appeased them. But then Jephthah doesn't leave them alone. Jephthah really scolds them later. We'll get to that later during the time of Jephthah. Second group of people, Judges chapter 8 verses 4 through 9. Judges chapter 8 verses 4 through 9. Then Gideon and the 300 men who were with him came to the Jordan and crossed over, weary yet pursuing. He said to the men of Sukkoth, "Please give loaves of bread to the people who are following me, for they are weary, and I am pursuing Ziba and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian." The leaders of Sukkoth said, "Are the hands of Ziba and Zalmunna already in your hands? That we should give bread to your army?" Gideon said, "All right, when the Lord has given Ziba and Zalmunna into my hand, then I will thresh your bodies with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars." He went up from there to Penuel and spoke similarly to them. And the men of Penuel answered him just as the men of Sukkoth had answered. And he spoke also to the men of Penuel, saying, "When I return safely, I will tear down this tower." What's going on here? Gideon's army was really, really weary, hungry, and thirsty. So he stopped by Sukkoth and Penuel, and he said, "Can you give them some bread?" What did they say? What are they saying? "Are those kings, did you already defeat those kings? If so, I'll give you bread. But if not, you guys don't," they're basically saying to Gideon, "You don't know. You think you're all dead because you destroyed the 135,000? Do you know how many there are in Midian? Right? And you're going there right now, and you haven't even killed the kings, and you say, do you want us to help you? What if you go and they defeat you, and they find out that we helped you? So, sorry, we're not going to help you right now until you actually kill those kings." Do you understand what they're saying? They're calculating. They're measuring. They're using their heads. "I cannot help you because you haven't killed the kings yet. I cannot help you because the chances are." They saw God at work in that battle. But even then, that thanksgiving, that God, isn't that a good enough sign that God is on Gideon's side to save the nation? Whose side are you on? These Sukkoth and Penuel. And they're saying, "Oh, I still cannot believe. Still cannot be on your side. Still cannot fully support you. I'm sorry. Because we have to live too."
You might have defeated the 135,000, but so Gideon's answer is, all right, when the Lord has given Zeba and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian, into my hand, then I will thresh your bodies with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars. This is not Gideon just getting angry. He's speaking from the perspective of God. And the men of Penuel, they are living in such a place of great name. Penuel. This is the same, basically the same name as Peniel, where Jacob wrestled with God, right? Peniel, the two difference is you and I. Okay? You and I. Peniel means God, my God. Okay? Face of my God. Penuel means face of our God. Anyway, they said the same thing, and Gideon said, when I return safely, I will tear down this tower. What is that tower? A tower means it's a watchtower. It's a protection. So without that tower, their protection is gone. Okay? So basically, God's protection will be taken away. We are safe today because God has the power over us, because God has protection over us. It's not that God becomes angry and mad and starts attacking us when we disobey, or when we go away from God. It's just that His protection, we are going away from His protection. And without His protection, there's always darkness and Satan attacking us. We have to stay within, under His wings, under His tower. And remember the blessing that God gave to Gideon? Jehovah Shalom. Right? Jehovah Shalom. That means if you don't help Gideon, the Shalom, the peace, your safety is taken away. Gideon is not just revenging. Gideon is telling them the truth. If you're not on God's side, you're on the other side. So I pray that we may also, before calculating, before counting and thinking, oh, I gotta save my head first. Before thinking about that, let us decide which side is God's side. And even if God's side has only 300 and the other side still has hundreds of thousands of people left, I pray that we may take on the side of God. Third type of people, chapter 8, verses 22 and 23. Chapter 8, verses 22 and 23. Then the men of Israel said to Gideon, rule over us, both you and your sons. This is after he destroyed everything. Okay? After everything was complete. This is after Gideon killed Zeba and Zalmunna. And so everything's finished. Complete victory. Then the men of Israel came to Gideon, said, rule over us, both you and your son, also your son's son, for you have delivered us from the hand of Midian. But Gideon said to them, I will not rule over you, nor my son rule over you. The Lord shall rule over you. What about these people? What are they expressing here? This is immediately after Gideon finished the war. What were they saying? Who are they glorifying? Who are they honoring? They were honoring Gideon. Gideon became their idol. Rather than giving glory to God, rather than sacrificing thanksgiving offerings to God, rather than saying, God, we now realize you are our king, they said, Gideon, can you be our king? You, your children, and your children's children. What's in their heart, what's in their minds, what filled their lives were coming out. That's idolatry. During their times, they made idols in the image of what they wanted. So when they were making idols for reproduction or fertility, they would make idols with big reproductive organs. Right? Deuteronomy chapter 5, verses 7 through 10. Deuteronomy chapter 5, 7 through 10. You shall have no other gods before me. This is God speaking to the Israelites. You shall not make for yourself an idol. What? Make for yourself an idol. So idol is made for whom? For yourself. So who's a greater God than the idol? Yourself. You're making the idol for yourself, for your satisfaction, for your desire, and so whatever comes out from inside of you is that idol. And in this situation, Gideon became the idol, but not only that specific person. Their worldly, secular way of thinking. Why? Because during the time, every nation had a great heroic warrior. Every good nation had a heroic warrior who became the king. Like Goliath. Somebody who can come out and say, hey, fight with me and I can defeat you. So him and his child and he passed down his throne to the next generations, and that family is known to be the hero family. After Moses and Joshua, the great leaders, died, the Israelites were vacant of one major leader. Of course, they had judges, but judges came and left, came and gone. And while they were gone, they had trouble. So they were saying, this is very unstable, this is very insecure. We don't know. It's not, we cannot really depend on these judges. We need one king that will continue to rule over us. We need that one hero. And Gideon, can you kind of track back to what Gideon was like? The little coward, little wimpy kid that became a great warrior now. It's like Captain Israel. Captain America was a wimpy kid and became a great warrior now. So he's like a great hero, great powerful leader. Even Ephraim learned a lesson from him. Sukkoth and Penuel learned a lesson from him. So they're thinking, if this guy becomes a leader, where do you see another story when people ask somebody to become their king? The Israelites asked Jesus to become king after Jesus. Something about bread, barley bread, right? This is very similar here, right? It's a type. So rather than thinking about why God gave us this victory, and thinking about God, they right back immediately after they were thankful for God and following God, but then as soon as the thing was over, basically their argument was, God's invisible. We need some visible guy or something that we can show to the other nations, and Gideon would be a good one. Human beings are very, very self-centered. Does anybody disagree with this statement? Human beings, it doesn't matter who you are, who I am, we are very, very self-centered. Somebody said meat is
bad for you and causes cancer. And I said to them, no, stress causes more cancer. And if I don't eat meat, I get stressed. So I need to eat meat. Somebody said, there's people who like to work out and their bodies are just, just like Captain America. And I say, it's all going to go to dirt anyway. Why even eat? See, I speak from my own perspective. Just because I don't like to exercise or work out, just because I don't like to refrain from meat, I come up with these arguments. Right? Everybody is very self-centered. So we need to ask ourselves, and you might say, there are very selfless people that give money to and help out other people. You know what? A lot of them do it for their satisfaction too. They get something out of it. They do it for them. Maybe it's tax deductible. When you see churches fighting or people in the church fighting, you listen to both of them. I have done that a few times. I don't know, I'm known to be a pastor that goes to a church that splits. So you listen to both sides. You know common thing? What they claim? They're the ones. It doesn't matter. Every one of you, every one of me, and every one of other people, everybody claims, I am standing for Father's will. I'm following what God said and what Father said. So anybody against me is going against Father's will. How do you split when you're all for Father's will? They're all on God's side. When you really, really think about it and analyze it, they're all on their own side. And they have this misconception that God is on their side. They cannot think any otherwise. But we have to remember, if we're true Christians, we have to remember to look at ourselves and think, what am I wanting here? Putting something on the facade and putting Jesus' name in front of it, but then behind it all, am I using Jesus' name to get something I want? Am I fighting? Am I offended because it's about me? Something inside of me? Where is God in this picture? If we are true, honest Christians, we need to be able to say, wow, again, something from deep inside me came out. From this abyss came out that beast. And what do we do when that beast comes out? Christianity is all about concealing the beast, right? You conceal it and you be nice. No, how do we act when myself, my dirty self, my ugly self comes out? What's my reaction? What we need to do is to really take it out and give it to God. God, this is me. And oftentimes we think, God, I don't want to show you my ugly face. God says, we look at ourselves, and when we see the ugly thing coming out from inside of us, we get surprised. Whoa, is that me? Don't we? Do you know yourself? I get surprised day by day, looking at the mirror. We get surprised. And we think, God, I hope you didn't see this, and we try to conceal it. God's saying, you dumb, you fool. I saw that a long time ago. And you want to know something really cool? That's not even half of what you are. But still, knowing that God has chosen us already,
that God is leading us step by step. And He's doing that to show us what we are so that He can take that out of us. People who are self-centered, one common characteristic. What they need to change, they expect other outside environment or other people to change. But we have to realize God is showing us what we look like so that He can change it. He's showing it to us because He can clean it, because He can change it. But if we keep on not accepting the fact and expecting others to change, we will start grumbling and grumbling because we'll say, why is this country not changing? Why is this church not changing? Are these people not changing? You're always asking, just like when I'm driving, you're always asking for them to change. Until my wife tells me, it's you. You're driving just like them, and you're not changing. So how do we respond? And this desire to be like the world, desire to have human-centeredness, desire for them to control, came out. As soon as the war was over, he said, Gideon, can you be our king? And finally, fourth, let us think about Gideon. But before we go into fourth, let me close the third point. The closer we get to God, because God is light, the more of myself gets revealed. You know, when you're dating, you gotta date in a not so bright place, with good lighting, so you look beautiful. Have you ever seen